The process for putting in the vent fan, the window, and the doors is very similar. First, I will put down a layer of butyl tape around the edges. Then I'll put this in, I'll screw it in. For this one I'm using 1.5 inch number, let's see, what are these? Number 14s, so fairly big ones. To screw these in. And then afterwards I could go around the edge with some silicone sealant. Again, waterproof for exterior use. I'll use white on the top here since this is white, but on the window and the doors, since those have black trim, I will use clear. And the clear actually looked pretty nice on the trim where I used it. So, of course, the fan has the additional, the additional step of doing the electrical, but I can install it first and then hook it up from the inside. So first step, I want to clean the surface really well with some mineral spirits, let that dry, then I'll apply the butyl tape and then I'll attach it. So I've got all the butyl tape on. Now I can put this in, make sure those wires get down, make sure the hinge is towards the front. And then before I press it down, I'm going to look from the underside to make sure that it's at least somewhat centralized in there. So now I can put these screws in. I've got the pilot holes already drilled, and I'd like to put a little bit of sealant in the holes before I put them in, just as an extra security measure. So just put a little bit in there. Each of these. I can screw these in. I'm not going to go completely tight on it, all of them. Just want to go until they start, and then I'm going to work my way around with the pressure so that it's nice and even. But I put on the silicone and spread it around the outside. I also put some over the top of every screw head. And it looks kind of ugly, but it will definitely help keep water from getting inside. So this looks pretty bad right now. The silicone, when you apply it, is white, and as it dries it becomes clear. So hopefully this will look better, otherwise I might have to try and figure out some kind of trim I can put over the top of it. We'll wait and see what it looks like. So I've got one of the doors just kind of propped up in here, and I've got a bit of an issue that I won't take too much work to overcome, but it's a little bit. So when I put this in, this inside face of this door and the wall are pretty much flush, which that isn't the big deal. It's that the trim ring that comes in here has, this is stepped, and I don't know if you can see that in here, but so this is supposed to go up in here like that, and then you run the screws through it, but there's a gap here. You can see how my finger fits behind this. So what I've decided to do is I've taken some pine boards here and I've run them through the thickness planer until they're just the right thickness. So I'm going to run them around all four sides, and then in these corners, and I will cut out some, and then on the bandsaw I'll cut that curve on there so that I can put that trim ring on and then cinch up these doors. I've got a board on the bottom temporarily there just so I've got a reference point for these side pieces so that I can get them up at the right place. And I'm just going to glue and clamp these in place. There's one side clamped up. I'll wait an hour and then I'll come back to the other side. I've got the other side glued in, and you can see I've got that little corner piece right there that I need to take care of. So all I'm doing is I've got this board that I've milled up the same thickness as the other ones, and I'm putting that in the corner, marking that, and I'll cut that on the bandsaw. I'm going to not keep the line there. I want it to be a little bit smaller actually, but I'll do that. And then I did it on the other side, and then I'll cut those out, and then I'll cut them straight, and then I'll do the other two for each. I've got 2 of these boards, so I've got enough to do all 8 corners like that. So I really dislike this window, what it looks like as far as the trim goes. So I'm going to do something about it. If I had some more of the white oak, I would trim this out in that, but I don't have any more. So what I'm going to use instead is this nice piece of cedar that I have that's been kicking around my shop for a long time. I'm wondering what I'm going to do with it. Yeah, it's going to look a little bit different than the sides, but I think it'll be okay. So I'm going to mill this up, try to create a nice frame around the window. What I've done is I've cut these boards to, I don't even know what the width is, I just cut them to a width that would go over these. And then I hogged out material in the middle, so it's kind of U-shaped, so it'll go over this hump. And then what they're going to do is they actually don't sit completely flat, they sit kind of angled because the glass is out farther than the camper, and that's okay. Then what I'm doing is I cut this piece and these side pieces with about 12 3/4 on these longer pieces, and then I did the same on these 2 shorter pieces, and what I'm trying to do is get around this curve. So I'm taking this board and I'm putting it up so it's flush with the other one, and then I'm marking where it meets this board down here and on the top side. So that's what I ended up with once I cut it. It's not perfect, but certainly looks better than this. So here's the dry fit. These are just sitting in there. I think it's going to turn out pretty nice. So I'm going to epoxy it in, and just so you can see, I did drill some weep holes down on the bottom here. So I just finished putting this in. There were some gaps, so I had some epoxy left over, so I added some wood flour and filled some of those gaps. I am going to have to sand. That's okay. But I think overall, I'm pretty happy with it. So this is what it looks like after some epoxy and 3 coats of varnish. I think it looks beautiful. I wish it would have been oak, so it would have matched the trim on the sides, but overall I am very happy with it. I'm just waiting for some butyl tape, and then I can install the doors. But I've got the vent in, the window in. Once I get these doors in and finish sealing up the hatch, which I'll show how I did it in another video, then I've got this thing ready to go out in the elements. All right, making some pretty good progress on this. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the support. Process for everything. UPS driver making lots of noise. Yeah.